Jim Ryan, ABC News. Thank you. Good Thursday morning. Jack Heath, J Dog, the illustrious one on the boards. We are looking at a more overcast and not cloudy day. Not that bad of a day. Highs about 50, and we'll get into the back half of the week here on this Thursday morning. We appreciate very much you joining us, me and our team and our guests. We have a packed show for you. We appreciate it. We know you have choices, and thanks for flying with us for your news talk. Thousands of you are now streaming nationally and beyond. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H, and of course, WTPL 1077 FM, Manchester, Concord, Seacoast of New Hampshire, right up into Portland, Maine, York County, Mike Pop finishing up over in Studio One in Dover, WTSN AM and FM. And of course, we have you blanketed in the Lakes region and elsewhere. A lot going on this morning. Big day in the U.S. House as foreign aid, including a proposed $61 billion to Ukraine, including also about half that for Israel and even Taiwan, going to be split up by House Speaker Johnson. He's the embattled House Speaker Johnson because Representative Green and others want to oust him. This may increase those chances, even though he says he's not resigning. So we'll see where that goes. More tensions out of the Middle East. We told you about this yesterday with Israel now pretty much stating very clearly, no, there's no guessing between the lines. Netanyahu saying in the last day or so, hey, we're going to do what we have to do. Israel's going to do what we have to do to defend ourselves. In other words, no one's really going to be telling us what to do. So we'll see where that goes as we get going. Those unemployment numbers, no surprise. I mean, look at we have per capita, we have like one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation. Plenty of jobs. I mean, how many times do I have people on from organizations, nonprofits, businesses, companies saying, oh, state of New Hampshire, oh, we have hundreds of openings. We have hundreds of jobs. You know, a lot of people don't talk about this. Now's a really good time to get a second job. You know, the days with inflation not going away, the days of what people used to have to do to make ends meet isn't new, but things are getting so expensive. So not surprised there. As we get going, also, we're going to pretty cool in the top of the 10 o'clock an hour from now. Scott Walter, I'm looking forward to having him on the show live this morning. He's author of the book Arabella. What is that about? Well, the dark money network of billionaires in politics in America. Now, he does focus on sort of the George Soros or Bill Gates. But a fascinating look. And this is one of the, again, you hear me on the show, and one of the drums I continue to beat because someone has to, because no one's doing it nationally. No one, in terms of national media, no one. Is this hypocrisy runs so deep? We have all these members of Congress, senators, congressmen. Don't you know who I am? I love that from the Mark Wahlberg movie, The Shooter, with the senator in the end with Danny Glover. Don't you know who I am? I'm a United States Senator. Don't you know who I am? We have all these like lofty members of Congress, been in there 20, 30 years, and they get all holier than thou on reelection time. Oh my goodness. Reelection at all cost. And then they'll talk about, including this state, they'll talk about, we need to remove the dark money of politics. We need to take this big billionaire corporate, the dark money out of politics. And then they run for the United States Senate again to get reelected. And they take $50 million or $30 million in dark money. They take it all day long, whether it's through third-party ads to help them or direct. And then they say, well, we need to take it out of politics. You've heard me say constantly, there's a couple of things that run Washington, D.C., and the Potomac has nothing to do with it. Money and power. Money and power run D.C. Without it, there won't be any problems. I mean, look at all the members of Congress who become rich, filthy rich from public service. What a joke. Just look at the financial disclosures. You know, they have to fill out these. Of course, they get away with, I think, too often with insider trading on stocks when people like Martha Stewart go and serve their time in jail. But just look at the net worth of some of these members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, both parties, especially the ones that have been there over 20 years. Look at how much they're worth today versus when they ran. Look at how much they're worth today. How do you become worth 30 or 50 million? Don't tell me it's through your investments. If you're making a couple $100,000 a year as a member of the Senate or Congress, how do you become worth 50 to $75 million after that's your full-time job? I don't know. You got me. You got me, and don't tell me that your spouse is a good stockbroker, Nancy Pelosi. Don't tell me that. He's not that good. So, we're gonna have, Scott Walter on, Arabella, the dark side of, the dark side of dark money in politics and how it's not going anywhere. Lot going on. All right, what else is cooking? We, getting the, NHL. We talked yesterday, the sports, playoff hockey starts this Saturday, Bruins, Maple Leafs. Bruins are a slight favorite, but as J-Dog and I talked yesterday, tough, tough. You get a tough feeling on this series getting underway. Are they gonna be the, Utah Mormons? Probably not, probably not. You you know what they're gonna be? It'll be something simple like the Utah Blades, the Utah J-Dogs. Hey, coming up in a little bit, our friends at Auto Fair and the State Police, our regular segment. This is a good one today. I'm looking forward to it. We have you've heard me talk over and over about the recruitment crisis we have in this state, in this country for important positions, whether it's EMT, nurses, state police, local police, firefighters, National Guard, military. We're going to be joined by a probationary trooper, Shane McClure, he was hired in November, and next Friday he graduates from the New Hampshire Police Academy. And what happens, and he's going to explain it to us. You get hired, they do the interview, and you go through in the physical. You get hired if you get hired. I think they're still paying a $10,000 bonus if you make it through and you become a trooper to incentivize. But you get hired. But there's a probationary period, and then they're put through a lot of great stuff on the road with other troopers. It's a real learning curve, and we're going to hear what his message is and his background in terms of wanting to join the New Hampshire State Police. And a very important programming note and reminder, on May 15th, coming up less than a month, we go 12 hours for our veterans. 12 hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. My 10th annual Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count, now part of Benny Media. Mike Pomp will kick things off early in the morning, then I'll kick in. We go all day, 12 hours commercial free. We have some great sponsors, including a FedPoint, our presenting sponsor, many, many great sponsors, and we'll tell you about them. But we're going to really talk about veterans issues, veterans homelessness, suicide, still too big of a problem. And you've heard me say again repeatedly, but someone has to beat the drum. Someone has to beat the drum. If we can't take care and better care of our veterans, I don't think we have much business taking care of anyone else. I mean that sincerely. The veterans are such a precious part of our population. We're not doing enough to take care of them on the emotional side of health, the physical too often, and they're not real good at asking for it because it's not their nature, most of them. So we go 12 hours, May 15th, my 10th annual Make 12 hours count for veterans count, vetscount.org, part of Easter Seals, New Hampshire. All right, hey Google, hey Alexa, play the Pulse Vintage. Come back. We'll introduce you to a probationary New Hampshire state trooper who's about to become a full-time state trooper. Well, he's been full-time, but you know what I mean, through the period of training, and what his message is to do something bigger than yourself. A little bit later on, he's been involved in the Republican State Party, but Ryan Terrell, up-and-coming leader out of the state's largest city, Republican, running now for the executive council. We'll catch up with him. Of course, Ted Gatsas, the longtime former mayor of Manchester, former gubernatorial candidate, state senator, and done a lot. He's the executive counselor. He's not running again. But, and again, we have to realize, regardless of your politics, Ann Custer, a formidable force in the second congressional district, 6 terms she's been in there, and she's retiring. Gatsas is retiring. So some big names, and of course, big one, Chris Sununu. Chris Sununu. He's not retiring, but he's not running again for governor. We all know that. What is he going to do next? We're not sure. But the point is, this next fall, there'll be no Sununu name unless someone else in the family runs it. I don't know about it, running for governor again. So some changing of the guards, as you say. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, Chidog on the boards, back in a flash. Get some updates. We'll get some updates for you live from our NBC national contributors. Quite a showdown today in the U.S. House with Republicans mainly, and maybe some Democrats over Speaker Johnson, whether or not he's going to continue. He's also breaking up the foreign aid packages versus one, including 60 billion for Ukraine. Some Republicans want that tied to more being done at the southern border. We're going to switch gears. We thank our friends Jason LaCroix and the team at Auto Fair and our friends at the New Hampshire State Police. And we are joined we have with us Sergeant Jordan Kopko, New Hampshire State Police. I don't know if it's lieutenant now. I keep getting confused, sir. Well, you never know by the end of this segment. You never know. You never know. Well, listen, you do so much in the recruitment side, and I did talk earlier about probationary trooper Shane McClure calling in and talking about the process he's gone through and his message to other people looking to join the ranks of the New Hampshire State Police. I'll let you run with it, Sergeant. I appreciate that. And who was better in soccer? He was always popular because it was like hockey. You always need someone to play goal. Well, let's bring in probationary trooper McClure. Thanks for joining us. Where's home originally? Tell us a little bit about your background. That's a pretty cool background. Now, the question I always like to ask is, well, first of all, talk about what the process has been like from when you got hired as a probationary trooper, the training, the learning. What's it been like for you? And any surprises? Anything surprise you either way? A trooper that was something you didn't expect. Was the peer support there from veteran troopers? Just any surprise about what you expected? Let me ask you this, it's a question I've asked the sergeant. You given your background living in Europe, I mean, maybe you could have been a professional goaltender in soccer, I have no idea, but seriously, what made you want to go this path versus, say, private sector business or some other path? Interesting. Sergeant, what do you when you hear this story, probably not surprised, but how many troopers like this are, pretty soon here, becoming full-time in the ranks? Interesting. And Trooper, Shane, what's your message, to someone who and by the way, one thing I didn't mention, unless I maybe you mentioned, I'm sorry if I missed it. Um, any service in your background, your family, military, police, any sense of service? Or are you the sort of the first to go through the route of becoming a state trooper? Interesting. And Sergeant, any other thoughts? Anything else coming up? If people want to learn more, any classes coming or anything coming up? And I don't know this sergeant, but at one point we had it might have been the current colonel or the former, it might have been in between, talking about a bonus period a year or so ago that the state was offering for public safety and the state police. I think it was $10,000 if you sign up and get hired and get it through the process that Shane's gotten through. Is that still there or is that not there? Interesting. All right, great stuff, Sergeant Kopko and Trooper Shane McCord. Thank you so much. Good luck with you on the job. I appreciate it. What do you have any idea on the assignment, or is that wait and see, Sergeant? Does he go out on the road? Does he go to headquarters? What's the next step? All right, good stuff. Thank you both very much, and best of luck to you. All right, good luck. And of course, friends at Auto Fair bringing you that state police segment. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Inch. We come back on Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Inch. We'll update you on some of the other news talk happening beyond New Hampshire, right here at home, and who knows where else. Back in a moment. All right. Apparently, there were a number of 911 outages in 4 states, not here, but FCC is now looking into them, whether it was hacked or not. But people overnight, if they needed 911, wasn't working too well, wasn't working at all. All right, we're going to have more, as I said, coming up in a little bit later on. Author Scott Walter, the book Arabella, the dark money network of billionaires in politics and where they put their money, and everyone, including Bill Gates, and what their agenda is. And again, it's just so funny because all we hear about is we gotta take the dark money out of politics. Got to take all this big money out of politics, and these people run and they take all the money and they still pontificate. You know how that goes. Big day down also in the U.S. House in Washington. We'll have more on that as we get going. But I'm going to switch gears. As I said earlier, he's been involved as a leader in the state Republican Party, kind of one of the emerging younger leaders out of the state's largest city. And he's got a great story to tell. And as I mentioned, Ted Gatzis, the respected longtime executive counselor in that district, if you will, that includes Manchester, not running again, kind of like Ann Custer in the second congressional district calling it quits. And Ryan Terrell joins us back on the show. How are you, sir? Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an H. What's your thought process? What's going on? Tell us about it. What do you think the issues are, and why? What are your plans? And tell us about what you're doing. I guess one of the questions I want to ask you is we've seen at the State House, Ryan, and there's some of the national issues spilling right into the State House and legislation, whether it's on sanctuary cities, whether it's on some of the other issues of the day, abortion stuff, you name it, some national stuff becoming local. The council's a little different. And, up until recently, I had a theory that most people didn't know what the executive council, the governor and executive council, what their mission was. I think what's neat about it, but you're the one running, not me, is it goes back to our founding as a state to kind of check and balance the powers of a strong chief executive, a governor, in terms of contracts and spending or judicial appointments and nominations, kind of like the board of governors for the governor of the state. Is that kind of how you see it? And do you think the council's a little void of the national politics, like in the Republic and the Senate's on even sanctuary cities votes? It was right along party lines. 14 Republicans, yes, 10 Democrats, no. How about the council? What are your thoughts on the council? And is it a little separate than the legislature in terms of, getting political, or are politics even permeated the council? Ryan Terrell, running in the executive council. Tell us the district. There are five counselors. The district you're running for. And then finally, just you have a great story of moving here, why you moved here, what your upbringing, kind of the values you learned. Share that little bit that with us. All right. And if people want to learn more, all right. I appreciate it, Ryan Terrell. Thank you so much for coming on, getting caught up, and more action to come as we get towards the summer and fall. Thank you, Ryan. Of course, you're going to see more in that second congressional district. Senator Becky Whitley from the Capital Region in as a Democrat, Colin Van Alstern in as a Democrat. That's going to be a pretty feisty primary. We had Lily Tang Williams, Republican, running in the second congressional district. She's from where? Dr. Vic, our own Dr. Vikraman Shamani. And when I say our own, meaning he was host of Navigating Uncertainty and on the show quite a bit, and been a great friend. He's now, though, separate now. He's a candidate, so we'll put him in that category as just like anyone else, if you will. He's running as a Republican. So that second congressional district is heating up, and we'll see. In the first congressional district, of course, you have Russ Prescott and others. Um, and there's other people we've had on. I'm trying to think. Holly Noveletsky of the Novell Ironworks is running. So we're going to have some interested congressional, but we don't have a big Senate. We don't have a big U.S. Senate race this fall, but you do have the presidential race, and that's going to add a lot of attention and interest. And don't kid yourself, New Hampshire, although we don't have a plethora of electoral college votes, is very much apparently in play. If you watch how much Joe Biden is all of a sudden remembering New Hampshire after blowing it off during the primary in terms of not counting our primary. So we'll see where it goes. And it's going to be an interesting fall. And of course, the presidential stuff, we talked a lot about that yesterday. Interesting in the U.S. House. Could it be moving chairs? You never know. House Speaker Johnson trying to hang in there. Will he have a few supports from Republicans and Democrats to avoid ouster? But they're splitting up those funding packages. We're going to get some live reports a little bit later on. Aaron Rial, our own NBC national news correspondent, talking about if you live alone in our neck of the woods, as they say, or just out there in a place like where we live, how much does it cost an individual? How much does it really cost? I mean, I'm blown away. I have a great anecdote for you. Just speaking of development or real estate, we've talked about the crisis of lack of affordable housing. Friendly with a couple developers in the Seacoast. They went to a zoning board meeting the other night, and I'll just won't say the city or town. And let's just say it might have been Portsmouth, but they were talking the takeaway, the entry level. You've heard me saying this house in Rockingham County is certainly Portsmouth and Rye, New Hampshire. The entry level, if you want to buy a house that even needs two or $300,000 of work, the entry level price we've been saying is about $1 million. These developers who are very respected and good just because the cost of dealing and building in Portsmouth, new or renovated or new, renovated or new building, they have to get about 1.3 on the asking price to make any money. $1.3 million. That's like the entry level. If you're going to do like 4 home subdivision type development, 1.3 million is now the new starting price for Portsmouth. $1.3 million. Can you believe that? And one of the developers I was talking to offline said, I asked just 2 or 3 years ago, what was sort of that entry level, if you were to build something, what did you need to get to make any money as a developer? Very thin profit margin with Portsmouth. I'm not saying other places where you have some ability to make some money, which you have to if you're in business, by the way, unless you're taxpayer funded or the government. You know what I'm saying? Real business, real people. He said it just a few years ago, it was 850. It's about $800,000. Now it's 1.3 million today. That's unbelievable. And you wonder who's buying this, who's coming in to buy these places, who. And I got a message from a listener this morning. I want to share this. Pretty good message, actually. In South Carolina, just when you're talking about Portsmouth, there's an article in the New York Times. I don't know if you've seen this. This is the New York Times. Sick of your blue state. New York Times, not Fox. Sick of your blue state. These real estate agents have just the place for you. Did you know that South Carolina has become per capita like the fastest growing state last year? And that realtors, real estate agents, who tend to be pretty sharp people, by the way, very good marketing sales folks, very professional for the most part. Real estate agents in South Carolina are targeting disgruntled Republican voters in blue states to move there. They're going after not based on, age, income level, stage in life. They're going after Republican voters to say, hey, come to South Carolina. We do it better here, not like your crappy blue state. This is New York Times. Many of the newcomers, Republicans, are leaving the Northeast and the West Coast. That's like code for California. Why would you even want to live there? Why? Look at the Hollywood actors getting out of town. Unbelievable socialist state of California. But you look at New York, you look at New Jersey, you look at Connecticut, you look at even Massachusetts. They want to come to New Hampshire. Oh my goodness, why do you think that is? Do you think our drinking water is better? Do you think our paved streets are better paved? Do you think the public works people pick up the garbage any differently? Why do they want to move to little old New Hampshire? Oh, gee, could it have something to do we don't have an income or sales tax? Our overall tax burden is like the lowest of the 4 states in the country, down there with Tennessee and Florida. And the highest are these states I'm talking about, like New York. Oh, gee, why are people leaving these states? This is a good article in the New York Times. Real estate agents in South Carolina targeting people by their political affiliation in the Northeast and California to move to South Carolina. Hey, come down to Greensboro. Charleston may be getting a little crowded, but come on down to South Carolina. We do it better here. We don't rob you blind with taxes. We don't overregulate and we let you breathe a little bit. And that's great. Good for the realtors. And South Carolina is growing like a weed. I mean, you look at the air carriers now that are increasing hubs there to some, like I hear the new cool place is Greensboro. I've been through it, but I don't know it as well as Mount Pleasant or Charleston, North Carolina. But you look at these states, and it's great that the real estate agents are targeting Republicans to leave these blue states, and it's working. But the sad thing is the Republicans know why they left. But there's also disgruntled Democrats who finally got enough oxygen in their head to realize, I don't want to live in Massachusetts anymore. I don't want to live in New York. I don't want to live in Connecticut. I don't want to live in New Jersey. I don't want to live in San Francisco. I want to get up there and breathe some cleaner air in New England and be able to keep more of my income and have some degree of freedom. And for those people, I'd say welcome, but please, before you open the door of whatever you're renting or buying, remember why you left New York. Remember why you left Connecticut. remember what drove you out of New Jersey. Please, will you please remember why you left a big blue state for all those reasons before you come here and ruin this state? 603-228-2080. Some commentary back on the Pulse of an H in a moment. $9.52. Is that when you were born? You were born at night, right? Were you in the morning? 9:52. Do you know what time? How do you know what time you were born? I don't know what time, but I don't remember that. Is there a plaque in front of the hospital where you were born that J Dog was part of a litter here? Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt your promotions? Well, interesting. Good. I don't know about you. I find it funny. It's just my sense of humor, I guess. My strange sense of humor, commonsensical sense of humor. I'm just getting back to the VA here on something. Uh, I uh, I look at the network and the fascination they have, especially one that begins with C and ends with N. Oh, there might be an N in the middle. The fascination they have for Donald Trump. I've watched it now for almost an hour, the first hour. Now, the latest headline and story: 6 Trump jurors are left after one is excused, 12 still to be chosen, including the alternates in the so called hush money case. Fascination. Donald Trump back in a Manhattan courtroom. More at 11. The fascination. Trump in court. And one of the funniest stories I see from these networks, they don't even realize it, is when they do a story like, oh, geez, we're trying to look for jurors who don't have a strong opinion about Donald Trump. Can you tell me who in the United States of America doesn't have an opinion about Donald Trump or Joe Biden for that matter? I mean, Donald Trump, come on, you look at, the range of emotion ranges from his base of support, which is like concrete, cement. I mean, he owns the Republican Party now. You may not like that, but he does. He is the Republican Party. He's the presumptive nominee. You have a strong opinion. And if you're a Trump supporter, you have a very strong opinion. Contrast that with people who don't like Trump. They have a pretty strong opinion. So how are you going to find anyone in the United States of America who doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump? Please. You kidding me? you know, I heard one of the stories today on that the dirt bag there, the former gymnastics trainer, coach, or doctor who abused so many young gymnasts. I forget Nasser, is that his name, Jada? And how the Department of Justice is being sued. And justice isn't perfect, and all the people in it aren't perfect. And I do believe that most people, because I was one of them in college, I considered looking at the CIA or FBI. I think people that join certain agencies have good intentions. That's not my point. But you look at the Department of Justice, man, I got to tell you, just since Trump became on the national political radar running in 2016, all these cases. I mean, I got to tell you, you talk about voter fatigue. All these cases do against Trump is embolden his base and probably help him get elected. I'm just telling you the facts. God's honest truth. I do believe these people that brought all these charges, including U.S. attorneys and all this stuff, who had it all in for Trump, really believe that if we bog him down like quicksand with all these legal cases and he goes to trial and convicted, there's no way he'll become president. I got news for you. I think you might have miscalculated something along the way. And the hypocrisy that a lot of people feel that may not even be big Trump people, they don't like the lack of balance here, because it's pretty hard to argue that the Department of Justice has not been weaponized for political opponents or foes or enemies or gain. It's not new. If you point, as I point out on this show, just look at your history. Jack Kennedy and J. Edgar Hoover, who headed up the FBI, had it out for Kennedy. Bill Clinton and Louis Freeh. I'll come back to Bill Clinton. They were supposedly spying on Trump before he became president in Trump Tower, Department of Justice. The whole FISA war, FISA stuff, the Russia collusion. Isn't it funny how everyone ran off that bus who was pushing, oh, Russia collusion? That was the cool term. Russia collusion. That's how Trump won in 2016. That's how he beat Hillary. A month earlier, all the networks were tripping over themselves. Hillary Clinton is going to win in an historic landslide. And then the only way to explain Trump was Russia collusion, Mueller, and they're still going after him. Didn't Bill Clinton, by the way, it might have been a settlement. Didn't he pay Paula Jones $850,000? And I love the national media. Well, that wasn't hush money. Wait a minute. Did Bill Clinton pay Paula Jones for alleged sexual harassment and affair to get rid of it? $850,000. Whether it was a settlement or hush money, did he pay that or not? Or was that just a dream I had? Coming up, the author of Arabella, Dark Money in Politics, Scott Walter. Good morning, Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age, back in a flash.